just a little bit ago. This panel is about indie TV, more than just a bridge to mainstream TV. My name is Sib Law. I'll be moderating the panel. I'm chairman of the International Academy of Web Television. We are a membership organization, and this week, if you attended, which you obviously have, if you email us at info@iawtv.org, you will get a 50% discount on membership. Email us in the next week. I'm going to let the panelists introduce themselves, but I'm going to ask them a question. When you introduce yourself, please tell us what independent television means to you.
Check 1, 2. Hi, I am Mike Rotman. So do a whole little intro.
Please do.
Produced, wrote, directed a bunch of TV over the years, from Politically Incorrect with Bill Maher to South Park. Started doing more reality shows, hated that. So fully left TV about 5 years ago to form my own company called Streamin Garage. We did a lot of live streaming of events and our own shows. I literally turned my garage into a 5-camera HD live studio about 5 years ago, one of the first ones on the internet. We did a bunch of different shows, movie shows, music shows with Kurt Smith from Tears for Fears, things like that. And then over the past few years, now that there's actually some money coming into the internet, for the first 3 years there was nothing. We're selling shows. I sold a show to Nerdist called Kids Court with Andy Kindler, comedian Andy Kindler. Sold a show to Aura, one of our old shows called Stupid for Movies, is now being licensed by them. Just sold, or in the process of finishing up a deal with Discovery and Discovery Online to go from their online to TV, a show we did. So yeah, that's essentially me. So that is independent TV. Leaving the network TV, leaving the network notes, leaving the terrible reality stuff I didn't like doing anymore, and literally forming my own company and just doing it myself, whether we bring in sponsors or whether I sell shows, kind of taking that model, just how do we make money and do it ourselves.
Hi, I'm Dana Kuznetzkoff. I'm an independent film and television producer based in New York City. I started a while ago doing a lot of TV that dates back to Law and Order, and then I just progressively moved up and did some more network-based stuff, including Fringe and Smash and Babylon Fields. And independent television, to me, is what we're all trying to figure out now, and what we're all trying to live now with, 5,000 channels. It's not studio. It's not ABC, NBC, CBS. It's everything but, and that's what it means to me.
And I'm Hunter Kinsella. I'm at Frame Media Group. I just recently left CAA doing brand and digital packaging. And independent TV to me means finding alternate sources of financing for content and distribution of that content in a unique way where you can actually monetize it across multiple windows. At Frame Media Group, I own and operate and have partnered with a network of blogs where I can aggregate their niche audiences and sell those audiences at scale to brands. And then I can kick out media dollars to actually support and fund content.
We can keep that. I am Adam Harem, and I'm a writer-director. I've been a freelancer for many, many years where I worked kind of all over the world. I lived in Haiti for a while and been working on a Haiti documentary down there, working with people like Sean Penn's organization, the Bill Clinton Foundation. I've worked in Germany, and then currently what I do is work on an award-winning web series called Transsolar Galactica, which I write and do visual effects for and edit and do everything else. Wear a lot of hats, but independent television for me, as a filmmaker and a director, is actually the ability to get my content out there and to have people interact with it and see it. And not only that, but also help fund what I want to do. I feel like it gives the ability for people to kind of buy their own entertainment and fund stuff that they want to see. And as a filmmaker, I've had the opportunity to do that for people. So that's what I do.
Hi, my name's Dan Capuzzi. I'm a filmmaker in LA. Been doing it for about 15 years. And what independent television means to me is an opportunity for maximum invention and maximum experimentation and courage to kind of lead the way entertainment-wise.
That sounds so hopeful. I'm David Katz. I work at Starz, which is a cable network, so I'm probably the one network guy on this panel. So we are a distribution group, so there's a ton of product coming through our group, and we're pushing it out to all of our different partners like iTunes and Xbox and Amazon and PlayStation, wherever you guys buy your content. Hope you're buying it and not stealing it. And so what independent television means for me is, as someone who is constantly pushing product out to these platforms where people are coming to consume content, it's another way for me to provide great content to those partners, right? So I'm actively looking for more stuff to push through the pipe. So, that's why I'm excited to be here and sort of meet all you guys and hear kind of what your solutions are to this problem.
That's awesome. So the panelists know who's here in the room. Can I, by show of hands, get creative types? Just put your hands up so we know how many creative types are in the room. A lot of you. Industry insiders, raise your hand. Few folks. Business types, other types of folks who are the non-creative types related to this industry. Excellent. A few folks. So a lot of creators here in the room. So, if you work with budgets under 10,000, raise your hand. Good bunch of people. If you work with budgets over 100,000, raise your hand. A few people. Okay, so question for you guys, folks.
I was going to ask, how many of your parents are disappointed at your creative types?
I saw some hands go up very fast. So, folks, if you were handed a bucket full of money and it was in the range of, let's call it $20,000, and you were young and someone said, go make a success, what would you do?
That's a lot of money for web. That's good. That's a good chunk. Yeah, 4 shows. Yeah, 4 or 5 shows for 20 grand. So if you're trying to sell something, my thing always is, if you get $20,000 and I'm like, I'm going to make 6 episodes of this web series, I would say, don't do that. Make a pilot, right? Because you're making a pilot to try to find more money to bring in somebody like Starz or Nerdist or whatever to fund it more. If you do your own web series and let's say you got enough money to do 6 or 8 of them. If you don't get a couple million views on each one, you've wasted your time, right? Because nobody's looking at you. That's how I see it. Nobody cares what you did. I mean, unless it's a specific niche, then sometimes the numbers don't matter. We're actually doing right now a Bitcoin game show. Does anybody know what Bitcoins are? So we're doing a Bitcoin game show. We're not getting a lot of views because it's such a weird niche, but there's so many huge Bitcoin companies that have a lot of money that are looking for a place to advertise. So we do a game show every week now live, and our numbers don't matter to them. So know what you're targeting, and at the same time, I think we're all probably going to talk about money and how do you bring money in, but do something you love. That's really important. Whether it's tone or whether it's the niche or whatever it is. But that's sort of my take. Is if you're looking to do it for a hobby, sure, go make 6 web series and have fun. But if you're looking to make it a business, you try to do the TV model, do a pilot, do a short 5-minute to show proof of concept.
Absolutely, and I would also do more than one. If I had that much money, I would do more than one, but the idea is to do something. I agree a lot. You just have to do something, because the outlets that we have now where we can post things and we can try to generate and engage an audience and get what's the right word? Just get the eyeballs, get more people to watch our stuff. That's what's important. And the more popular the shows become, then everything else supposedly falls into place. I mean, it's still all brand new to all of us. We were here last year and we had a very similar panel, and last year we were all saying, Netflix, wow. And now they're calling the shots. So, just do anything, and people are going to say it's the... You get very frustrated when people say just do it, and you get very frustrated when people say find your passion, but it's true. You just do it, and if you're good, by the way, you have to be good, everything will follow. That's my take.
I think to your point, you need millions of views. My first instinct would be, I have $20,000. What set of types of content can I make? And what are all the distribution windows that I can find to monetize against? And based off of where I can monetize and how I can monetize it. So whether it's an AVOD platform, so an advertiser video on demand platform like an MSN or AOL or Yahoo, or an SVOD platform like a Netflix or Hulu, or you have a Vimeo, which is kind of a pay-per-view model. If you look at all these different windows, you can really find, okay, I can do 10 pieces of content here, 10 pieces of content here, and I know exactly how I'm going to make my money back. And then knowing where and how it's going to be distributed, I would choose my content off of that.
Cool. I like hiding it over here. Personally, if I was given 20 grand to work on a project, I would just accept right off the bat that none of that money is ever probably going to come back to me. I'm never going to get a chunk of that for myself. That's actually an interesting number because to help fund the second season of our show was actually around that number through crowdfunding. And a big chunk for us, like you were saying, finding the different distribution models and where it can go was a big chunk of that went to investing. We didn't necessarily say, this much money is going to this episode and this, but we did invest in equipment and advertising to help spread our words, and then also use a chunk of that money to help invest in app, like a video game app, as a different model and a way to distribute out. So one thing we invested in as well was camera equipment we knew we would need and use for the rest of the episodes that we were shooting on. So it became not so much a budget specifically for the episodes of the show, but investing in that project. Because we also knew buying a camera and equipment that we were going to use on our web series was something we could rent out to also help get more money into the show. So basically every time we rent out our camera and use it, we're also getting money in that goes directly to the show to help build that 20 grand right off the bat. So that was, and maybe, yeah, and buy some food for people that you're working with maybe?
Yeah, I think what you said, Adam, is the way to do it. If I did what we did last year again, I would spend more time anticipating future technologies and trying to incorporate them into the storytelling. Because I don't know if there's a specific model, if there's a TV pilot model, if there's anything that is really going to be the same in 5 years. I think things are going to shift. And you have to think in terms, if you want to do narrative stuff, I think you have to think in large world terms, things that can run for a long time and draw an audience. But I have a question. Don't you guys think there's value in, even if you don't get 1 million views right away, in being able to stick around for a while and build an audience? And is the crowdsourcing aspect valuable? Is it mean something?
Yeah, I mean, that's a difference. So what do you mean by stick around? If you're trying to do, let's say you do a narrative web series, right, and it's 6 episodes. I've seen people I did season 1, nobody watched it. I'm going to do season 2 and 3, where I'm like, try something new. Right, as opposed to a vlogger who it's much cheaper to do and they have something to say and it's much more of a conversation back and forth. So it just depends on what your project is how I see it. Crowdsourcing can work and you can build up. And honestly, I always say this, the pre-production, the production, the post-production is about 20%. The marketing, the social media is about 80% of your project, bringing people in, so yeah.
Yes, staying around as long as you have the right outreach, because you do need the views, but you also need the outreach. So there's no reason to come back for 2 and 3 if you're not doing anything. I posted a Kickstarter. I got no money. Well, what did you do to, that outreach? So I agree with staying around, but I also agree you got to do some stuff to get people there.
And I was just going to say, it kind of depends what you want to do with that audience. Like, if you're investing in building that audience, how are you going to figure out how to monetize against it? If you're like, oh, I just have this audience, then you just need a strategic vision on where and how you're going to be able to, if you have content on a digital platform and it's off of YouTube, then bring them in on a weekly basis. You're still able to make money on the advertisements around it, right? So you're actually having a longer tail on your audience rather than just having a quick, I got 1 million views and they were here and they were gone.
So let's pop over to David, and then Dana has a question.
So, I think audience cannot be understated, right? And I'm going to disagree a little bit on the pilot, because I think that if someone brings me an awesome pilot, sometimes it's harder for me to crack a show, right? Like, I'm not going to put it on Starz. I'm the digital guy, so it's not like I call up the Starz network and I'm like, hey, I got an awesome, web show. Let's throw it up on air. It's like, it doesn't work that way, right? So what I'm really looking for is someone who knows how to talk to their audience. And it doesn't have to be on YouTube. It could be Vine. It could be Twitter. It could be whatever. But if you take that $20,000 and everything that's been said is true, right? Has to be authentic, has to be passionate, has to be smart, has to be good. But if it's really connecting with an audience and you're able to stretch those dollars and you come to me with 1 million Twitter followers and a great idea, and you say, I can move these Twitter followers wherever I need them to be. I can move them to iTunes to buy my thing for 99 cents. Like, that's valuable to me. Even if the thing that you produced is sort of separate from what you want to do, you're bringing me the audience and their connection with you, and that's really important. So if you bring me a great pilot, I know you can do great work, but it's sort of incumbent on both of us to figure out how to crack that show. And some places like Screen and AOL, like, they can do it, but some places can't. So you throw something up on Vimeo, Vimeo may or may not promote it, but it's incumbent on you to develop that audience. So so I would say spend that $20,000 on creating content that aggregates an audience and connects them with you and your content.
Yeah, I guess that was part of my point is like I said, I've seen people spend it on the 6 episodes that have, if I bring you 6 episodes of something that's amazing, but there's 1,000 people on my Twitter or 500 and there's a couple hundred views you see on YouTube, that does you no good, right?
I just want to circle back to Adam for 1 second, because you said that if, God willing, someone gave you $20,000, you weren't going to see a penny of that. It was all going to go into the project. So then producer, director, and I'm sure there's 90% in this room that kind of want to have the same conversation, then how does a producer and director in this world of independent web television, how do you monetize that? How do you get paid? How do you pay, not personally, or unless you want to, but I mean paying your rent, that's huge, and producers and directors are not getting paid. So how do you answer that?
I don't get paid. No, I'm joking. I have for
a lot of people here don't.
No, it's true. It's for us, it's interesting because I do a lot of commercial work, and that's my main job. And I've kind of accepted that doing my series and making independent television hasn't become something that I can do full time yet. It's just something that I have to accept, and so I pay my bills by doing my work as a director and an editor on the side, and then hope that as I'm pushing the show forward that it does become my full-time job.
So you have an excellent day job.
I do. Yes.
It's an excellent day job.
And related.
That helps.
But on the same, do you think now, because you're in it and you have an excellent day job and you have a great series, is there a business, can you change a model? Can you, because of who you are at this level, at this age, with your experience, can you get out there and start approaching other people and change the model and say, no, I'm the director and the producer, I need to get paid? Or is there a stigma because no directors and producers get paid? It's just the way it is. But I don't understand why that is. Especially if someone's handing you $20,000. I mean, I'm amazed that the first thing you said was, I'm not going to say any of that.
Well, for me personally, it's passionately attached to my project. So I would want to see everything, money-wise go into it on screen, and for my audience and for the people that are supporting me, helping me make the show. So personally, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with not making money off it. But it's a good point. It's like, well, where do you go and how do you actually start making, paying people creatively? When does that happen?
And I think that's the question that a lot of these folks would like to have answered. How do you cross over? How do you go from credit cards and paying out of your bank account to someone else paying for your project?
I think it's work, and it's a long process, and I think
it's a long process.
Yes,
and I think what I think I think I'm speaking out of turn, but the process by which you're doing and continuing to do content, you're building and aggregating that audience, and you're paying the bills while you're aggregating that audience. And I think there really is a cross point at which you have a amount of audience across all your different platforms that you really drive audience when you need to monetize against it. And that's the point when you start paying, and you pay residuals back to that time that you're growing that audience.
I think it's a good point. I think it's the amount of time and how long it takes. And for me, that's kind of what I'm moving towards. And I know that there is going to be that point where suddenly my day job and what I'm doing on my show right now will cross, and then I can lose that day job and go over.
For me, so I was doing TV, making good money, and then just couldn't take the reality stuff. Left it, built the company up, did nothing. 2 years, 3 years, I made no money. Actually took a year off while we were still doing shows. We built, we did like 10 different shows. We built this huge audience. I landed up taking a job as head of production at one of the multi-channel networks called Big Frame. Did that for a year, and then saw there was some money coming in, got some offers, left that job to go back to my company, where now I'm suddenly getting paid, because now, we built the audience, we let them sit there. We did a movie review show, we did 50 episodes, and then we filmed it, and movie reviews seemed you'd seem that they would get old, but they don't, because now suddenly it's on Netflix. So we'd relabel it on YouTube, build more audience, kept the audience on Twitter, kept the audience on Facebook. And now we're getting sponsors as well as selling shows, and now suddenly I'm getting paid for that first 2 or 3 years after I left TV. It was back to college ramen noodles. I was not getting paid. I wanted to give everybody a Christmas bonus because even my crew was not getting paid much. So I gave everybody a Christmas bonus and then borrowed money to pay rent that December because I want to make sure everybody got paid. And that worked really well because they've always been very loyal. And I also got everybody in the crew jobs. So we use something called the New Tech TriCaster, which is a live switcher. Trained everybody on that, and now one of the people works for the NFL Network doing that for them. So, I offered free training. You offer everything you can, but yeah, you don't get paid at first. The model has changed. There's money coming in. 2-3 years ago, these panels were like, I don't know how to get money. Now there's definitely money, whether you sell it, whether you bring in a sponsor, there's money there, and I'm starting to make a little money for myself and my company.
So let's go across over here to David. Where's the money?
So I want to actually tell you guys a case study of when this line crossed, right? So, we were out looking for potential projects. We found this channel on YouTube that we really liked. Guy was in his basement. He was putting this stuff together, didn't have time to do more content. And what we recognized was that he had been grinding this stuff out and building an audience, but he had reached a point where he was never going to be able to do anything more because he just didn't have the time or the resources. And so we went in and said, we're going to license your entire library from you. So we're going to take over all the content that you had. Here's a big check. Now quit your day job. And then every video that you make from now on, we're going to pay you for because we want to accelerate you, right? And so that's I think the difference, right? People who come to me and want to be incubated, I'm not going to incubate you. People who want to be accelerated, I will happily accelerate you. But you have to have trajectory. You have to already show me that you're on your way there. And I have to be able to look at that as a business and say, if I invest now, I'm going to see the return later. So I'm investing in you. And what these guys were able to do, not only were they able to quit their day job and start focusing, but I said, you have to make more videos. He's like, I'm an artist. I make one a month. I'm like, no, you make one a week. Maybe 2 a week. And what happened was, that volume of content started to connect with his audience, and he started to multiply. And then I was able to take, because I talk to YouTube all the time, so I go to YouTube and I'm like, hey guys, look at this cool thing that's happening over here. They have this channel development team sort of sat down with me, and they're like, well, if you just did this, and this, and this, and this thing could really take off. So I went back to the guys and I said, you do this, this, and this. And they did it, and the channel took off, and it exploded. And now they're in a position where the channel's throwing off the kind of revenue that they need in order to really get paid and do the work that they want to do, and they're capitalizing on this library. So I think it can happen, but the inflection point is important, and you have to build the audience, and then you have to sort of have the connections or be able to find people like me or people like these guys in the audience who can say, all right, I'm going to invest in you because that's a good business choice for me to make.
So all the folks who raise their hands with the work with budgets under 10,000, what does it look like to you when you see someone who's on their way there?
Is that a question for me again?
It is a question for you.
So what is it?
When you see someone who's on their way there, what does that look like? How can these folks emulate that?
I think there's a frequency, there's a passion, there's a connection. Even if it's not a huge audience, if I see that the audience is committed, that they're talking to you, that they're responding to you, that they're engaging with you very on a high level, I can see the potential for growth. I think that creatively it has to be a fit with what I'm trying to do. So we don't really do a lot of reality stuff. So when people come to us and I say I have a great reality show, it's like it's not a great fit for me. Except the movie thing would be I would love that show.
Let's talk.
Right, I'm serious. That's great for me, right? You have a density of content. You've already aggregated audience around it. I can see the quality of work is good, and I'm ready to invest. Is that an answer to your question?
I think so. Does that help? Is that helpful? I'm getting nods out there.
Well, are there numbers you're looking for? It's like you've got this many Twitter followers. That really helps. I know, when I was at Big Frame, where you want to, let's bring in this guy to that video because he's got these numbers, and a lot of times these numbers are fake. As an executive, do you realize some of those numbers are fake and they're bought on Twitter? Do you care? Are you looking for specific numbers? Or are you looking for interactions? What's a good thing if people are trying to build up their social media?
We certainly views are important. You know, if you show me a channel on YouTube that has a couple hundred views per video, I'm not impressed. If you show me a channel that has a couple 100,000 views per video, then that is more meaningful to me. I think as far as audience goes, yeah, I mean, you know, it's sort of in the hundreds of thousands. You know, if you're in the tens of thousands, you're probably not where I need you to be. But what's interesting is this thing scales completely, right? So take a moment and just pitch, like, so Starz just did a series called The Chair. I don't know if you guys, any Starz subscribers, probably not, fine. So Starz did a series called The Chair, and The Chair was Chris Moore, who did Project Greenlight, produced it, and it was basically, here's a script, 2 filmmakers go make movies. Same script, different movies. And I feel bad I'm hijacking this panel. I hate it when people do this.
Keep going.
I'm stealing it back from you in just a minute, but I think we want to hear this.
Terrible. Anyway, so one filmmaker was Anna Martinucci, classically trained NYU film school person. The other one was Shane Dawson. Okay, Shane Dawson has like 6 million followers on YouTube, has like 3 channels, blah, blah, blah. The only reason he got to make this movie was because of that audience. So we took this film out and we said, drive your people to iTunes and make them buy this movie. These are YouTube 13-year-old fans. They don't buy anything. They're used to getting stuff for free. He cracked like number 4 on iTunes. Like, he beat, you know, real movies like Godzilla, right? For like a day, but it's happened, right? And iTunes is like, oh, you know, that's interesting, right? So it's like, it scales. You build this audience and you continue to build it. And his whole thing was like, we did this together. Fans, I made this movie for you. You know, and it's true to his fans. It's not like he went and made a movie that they wouldn't like. He made a movie for them. I watched this movie, I'm like, this movie is not for me. But it was for them, right? So I'm sorry, I'm not going to talk anymore.
Well, I think that's a great segue into what's the place of audience in the development of you, your brand, and your next steps.
Well, we made a mistake when we first started because I was going for we're not going to do video game stuff. We're going to do smart movie reviews and we're going to do smart music and hit an older audience. And that was 5 years ago. And the older audience, whether, 30 and above, hey, you guys got to share this and subscribe. Didn't know what that meant. Didn't care, didn't know what that meant. As opposed to when I work with the YouTubers, 13-year-olds, that's all they do. That's their water cooler talk these days. And in school, they're just sharing, they're playing the video game stuff. So that was interesting. We always talked about we should just sell out. Let's just live stream video game content. We're talking 4 years ago, and we didn't, and now all these video game content live streamers are making billions, and it was like, oh, we really should have done that. But we're going to be smart, because I left TV to be smarter. So it does play in. You have to look at, if you're going YouTube, who's that audience? If you're going, we went on Roku. We were one of the first, channels on Roku. We got like 200,000 subscribers on Roku, but Roku's not a sharing vehicle. It's a place to watch. So know what your show is and know where you want to put it. I think you were discussing that earlier, that it's really important to know who you're targeting and can they help you. If they're not going to help you and they're a passive audience that loves your show, that if they don't tell 2 friends, they don't tell 2 friends, it's not helping a lot.
Yeah, I honestly haven't found the audience yet. I'm looking for, what you just said, they don't want to like and they don't know how to subscribe, and I think there's got to be a place for those people. I think the 40-something crowd, they all have iPads, they all have, devices that they call devices, and they think it's so cool to call it a device. There has to be something for them. I haven't found it yet, but I know, and I'm not just talking content, I'm talking about a way for them to embrace web television, and I don't know how it is. I haven't found it yet.
I don't really have a good answer for this other than I would look at each and every kind of social outlet, and you can engage with your audience differently in each one of those outlets, and based on the type of content that you have, and test it. Go onto each one of these outlets and see where, like, if there's a lot of traction on Vine, then grow your Vine audience and leverage your Vine audience. If it's Twitter that is creating the conversation, go there. So I would let your kind of content and kind of experimenting on different platforms dictate where you build your audience and then how you leverage it.
I actually had just the reason that I even make the show kind of is actually from my audience. I originally made the first episode of our series as a one-off sketch, and it just for some reason got some really big traction and kind of took off, and I had a lot of people come back and basically demand we want to see more of the show, which was funny to me because all of the characters in the show died. So when we made a second episode, we were like, screw it, we'll bring them all back, let's do this. And it became an ongoing trend, and for our audience on the first season of our show, it became a game for them to kind of guess who was going to die in every episode. So I got this interesting audience reaction, and like they actually fueled me to keep making the show, which was great. I mean, that's, as opposed to me making a show and trying to find an audience came to me first and said, I want to see, just keep making some of the stuff. And so through that, doing a first season on basically nothing, we said, well, if you guys, if our audience wants to see more of the show, we'll do a Kickstarter. And they funded us and said, we want to keep seeing more and more of this. So I feel I've just been lucky in finding the range of people that are supportive, and I think it's amazing to me, even if you just run a Kickstarter, people, and through Facebook and social media and stuff, I don't think people realize just how much you can know about someone through that. Like, we could tell what age you were, where you came from to donate to a Kickstarter, like what website, what link, and from that we saw, we're in an age range of like, our popular fan base is 18 to 35, which is a nice age range. That's some people that'll actually pay to see some content and stuff. And we realized, like, that's our audience, and that's who's willing to watch and follow us. And it was a good, an eye-opening for us. But yeah, it was nice. A lot of people don't get that. So.
What's the another question? I'm sorry. What's the percentage of total TV audience that watches streaming? It's like 2% or something. It's shockingly low.
David, do you have those numbers?
It's great. Like Netflix, takes 30 at peak hours. They're up to 30% of all internet, data, and only 2% of the total audience that's out there is watching streaming. The audiences are going to get. That's going to go up. Right? It's got to go up. So audiences, the money's going to come, and audiences are going to get big for these things. And you work with the Dead Gentlemen guys. I mean, that's where I saw your show for the first time, and those guys make a real run at this. I mean, they do a good job. They do crowdsourcing, and it's all fan based, but they please their fans. And they make stuff that they want to see that they can't see anywhere else, and I think for me that's got to be the impetus for anyone going forward into this. You got to want to make stuff that's you can't find anywhere else. That's
so
the hope.
Connecting in a genuine way.
And that these are frustrating. It's frustrating rhetoric, but you can do it. I mean, with that agenda. But I don't think. I think if you're making stuff to get onto Netflix, I think that's a mistake.
David?
So I have another anecdote about connecting with your audience. So we have a show on YouTube that's a parody mashup of movies and TV. So it's called TVoovies, right? So you take a movie, you take a TV show, you mash it together, you create something. And so we have fun with the names like Jurassic Parks and Rec or Mad X-Men or whatever. So we're putting these shows out. It's so frustrating because we're not connecting with the audience the way we want to. It's maddening, And but we believe in the quality of the content. We believe in it, so we're just pushing it out. And one day, someone was reading the comments, and there was a comment like, "Hey, this is pretty funny. How come there's not more people viewing this?" And so we jumped on it, and we're like, well, you can fix that. Bring your friends. So it turns out this guy, we went and did. You can find out a lot about people, right? So we went and found out he's a brony. He's you guys know what a brony is? So
you should explain.
It's like a huge super fan of My Little Pony, right? Okay, so
guys.
It's a guy.
It's all
It's
guys.
a dude, right? So we went to his website and we saw that it's sort of he's talking about all this My Little Pony stuff, and so we made the challenge to him. He put this thing on his website, and the next video that we had, all these bronies were commenting. So vengeful spirit sent me here. We're gonna crash your comment system, whatever, blah blah. So they did this whole thing. So then like My Little Pony bronies, like no, that's not what I thought when I made this series, but whatever. So the next episode, I called the creative team and I was like, let's put a pony in this episode. So we stuck a pony in, and they went nuts. It was just like in like one frame, kind of like, and we're like, we're kidnapping all the ponies, and so now we're doing this thing where we're like, we have a pony in every episode, sort of hidden like an Easter egg, and it's just like you listen as a creator, you listen to your audience. We would have never thought of that, but now that we connected that way, we're like, okay, let's do this. We'll go with it.
That's awesome. I was having coffee this morning with Adam's dad, and he had a question, and then I'm going to ask the panel, and then we'll throw it to you guys for some Q&A. His question was, tell us about your biggest failure. So I'm going to add to that, or mistake, and how did it change you?
I don't fail.
I don't know about biggest failure, but I can say that we had a brand-funded show that was going to be on a large distribution outlet, and it was a car brand, and they were putting like a lot of money, and this was back like in 2008 or something, so it was really early on in brands trying to figure out how to do it. And we were developing this show on designated driving, and we had this automobile company paying for it, and we were working with the agency the whole time. So the brands have branding agencies that are in charge of spending those media dollars, and those media dollars went into the distribution outlet and then kicked out for production for this series. And we worked with the agency the whole time on the creative and kind of gave them all the cuts along the way. And at the end, we had like, cops like joking around with guns, like pulling people over. It was like a joke, but it was pretty funny. And it finally went up to the brand, and the brand was like, we have a huge contract with cops. How can we depict with them like this? And anyway, the whole show had to get shelved after everyone had put all this effort into it. And I don't know if this necessarily changed me, but I think it's really important along the whole process to make sure that the right decision makers all the way along are seeing it and approving it, and you yourself, especially as a content creator, because I was on that side at the time, are making sure that all the people paying for it and all the people that are going to be distributing it are kept in mind along the process. And I don't know, I think it just kind of changes your mindset as you're doing those types of projects.
If a person is difficult during prep or during contract negotiations, it's going to be a rough shoot, and you need to know when to walk away. And I still use that to this minute, because that's the biggest lesson I learned.
Yeah, that's a good one. Cut out all cancers.
Basically.
Yeah. As soon as somebody's a problem, it's going to continue to be a problem. My biggest one, I've been on the internet since like '93, doing little things like we did on Later with Greg Kinnear. We did live AOL chat room stuff in '93 on the air. So I was always making videos. So I made one in 2000 called The Strippers Poll. Sarah Silverman was in it, Fred Stoller, a bunch of comedians, Dave Gruber-Allen, who was from Freaks and Geeks. And it was like, what if you could exercise with a strippers pole? Just a funny late night infomercial. And then, I was like, wow, this could really be a real exercise thing. And this was 4 years before that actually became a craze. And I talked to some people, and they're like, no, that's silly. I'm like, yeah, let's just keep it comedy. And then 2-3 years later, suddenly somebody's making millions of dollars actually as an exercise class, but we just did it as a comedy bit. So I always think comedy instead of like, oh, that could have been a business. So that was probably my biggest mistake.
I haven't made any mistakes. I'm pretty good at what I do. Looking back, I think one of the things I feel I should have jumped on. I remember specifically when YouTube started really becoming a thing, and I remember getting on and going through the videos and kind of thinking to myself, like, wow, this is kind of stupid. There's a lot of people uploading useless things. Like, what, does everyone think they're a filmmaker? And I remember for the first couple of years thinking, like, that's not how you do it. That's not how that's not how I'm going to be able to do what I want to do. And about 2 years later, I was like, I completely changed my mind on that, because you realize that, yeah, there's a lot of cat videos, but there are also, if you find it, some amazing things being done. And personally, like, I'm able to work on the project that I'm most passionate about and get it out there through YouTube. So my regret and mistake was instantly having an aversion and not jumping on that 2 years sooner, I guess. So.
The $20,000 hypothetical scenario actually happened to us a couple years ago. We made a sci-fi show, 4 episodes, web series, and we sold it. And the company that bought it paid us for it, and then never picked up the episodes. They're still sitting on my hard drive at home, which is great. I mean, we took that to the bank and we made more shows and we got investment and it turned to a business. But it never got seen, and which is kind of vital if you're going to continue with this. So we actually avoided a mistake the second time when we were about to. We got offers for the second one, and at the last minute we decided to keep it and make it ourselves and finish it, and it's here at this festival, and so don't always go for the first offer.
And that's some things you can also, contracts, which I don't know if you're going to get into, are really important. So you can stipulate in your contract, this gets put out within 6 months, or the rights revert back to us. There's all sorts of things you can do. And you don't necessarily need a lawyer. It's good to have somebody professional look at a final contract, because I know with multi-channel networks, a lot of them burned people. So the multi-channel networks, they sign up your channel off YouTube, and a lot of them were suddenly 1920s sort of contracts from Paramount where we own you for life. And the content creator was a 13-year-old or whatever who didn't realize that. And there's quite a few of those if you Google it, MCN contracts. You don't want to, when you get lucky enough to sell something, make sure you get what you want out of it. Just because they're picking up doesn't mean they have to show it. And it's silly to be that nitpicky, but you kind of need to in all your contracts.
They wouldn't budge. They wouldn't give it back to us. They wouldn't agree
unless it's in the contract. They don't have to.
Well, we wanted it in the contract. We had lawyers. We did it the right way. And
so sometimes, you don't get what you want.
They had hard. And it was a weird thing, we thought at the time. Why are you not going to give us the show if you never show it?
Yeah.
And
because they want 20-year rights, and who knows what we're going to do with it in 20 years.
Oftentimes you'll see they have something similar in their library or in their pipeline, and for 20 grand, God bless, walk away, we're going to do ours. So. Right. And that's very common.
Right.
And I heard you say ownership, and I think ownership's a really important thing. And it really kind of depends where that funding is coming from. And different sources of funding are going to want different types of rights. And if intellectual property and retaining that is really important for you, then find the sources of revenue that are going to still fund you and you can still control that. So you have brands that are looking for, marketing kind of goals and campaigns, and they only care about eyeballs. They don't care about IP right now, where if a distributor gives you money, they're going to look at it as, we're deficiting you, we're going to own that. Or if an independent studio or independent financing comes in, they're going to want even more of it. So you just kind of need to figure out what is the cost of that money coming in, and then kind of make a choice based off that.
And what is your end result? So do you want this property, or do you want a franchise and sequels? And you have to know what you want, because you might want to give it all away just for the dream of getting it up there, but then all of a sudden you've lost your sequels and your character rights and everything else that you are entitled to.
David.
So I've had some pretty epic failures in my tenure at Starz, but the things that I think haunt me the most are actually game related. So, because I'm a digital guy, so we do all kinds of digital stuff, web series and digital distribution and game development. And so the short story is, we're not good at making games because we're a digital distributor. Who knew? So, know what you're good at and what you're not good at, because, we got into these businesses and we didn't understand that, a game isn't like a piece of content that you just throw up and people buy, and there's an ongoing cost to maintaining it. Like a Facebook game, you have to pump content into that thing every month and host it, and there's all these costs involved. Or as a distributor, I made the fatal error of not thinking about my distribution when it comes to a game. That seems completely backwards, but it's true. You need a publisher, and it's not someone who puts out movies to iTunes, which is what I do. It's someone who actually gets people into games. And so if you don't have that person on board who's responsible for driving people into your game, then you spend a lot of money, put a game out, and nobody shows up. So the lesson that I learned was know what you're good at. So now I license my IP to people who know how to do it, and who, I don't get all the upside, but I don't have all the downside.
Thank you. I want to turn this over to you. We have about 10 minutes for some Q&A, so just put your hand up. I'll come to you and put the mic in your hand.
Hi there. I was just wondering, what when starting out, is your opinion better to host your own stuff, and so you can build a community around you and your website, versus like YouTube, or YouTube where it's just so big and that you can kind of push it out there, but it could also get lost?
Personally, I started on YouTube and started just socially getting it out there as much as I could, just to get people's eyes on it, and then through that you can kind of take that audience, especially people that find it and love your stuff. They're going to kind of follow where you can direct them. So for us, it was an eventual evolution into hosting on our site, so that people see, they can purchase stuff from us, they can get updates from us directly, and all that jazz. So it was getting a very widespread, and then narrowing it down and trying to snag people into a site, so that eventually, hopefully, you can just host everything directly off of your site.
And also, like, if you're bringing them to your site, know that, like, you're using kind of YouTube as a marketing thing, and if you keep that in your head that it's marketing, it's not where you're going to make your money. You make it to build your audience, drive them to your site where you can exploit ancillaries like T-shirts and hats and all that. But then also you're going to be able to make more money on that content when it's on that .com. So if you have 100,000 people that are on Facebook, I could say that you probably want to start on the .com and YouTube and be able to kind of drive them both to the .com. But if you have zero audience, I think YouTube, just by the virtue that it's like more of like a sharing mechanism, I would start there, have this real estate already there, so you can build the audience while this is building as well. But then really, kind of focus on all the social outlets really pushing to that website.
I just want to thank and congratulate you guys for doing a panel that doesn't suck. Sometimes they do, and this was awesome. Really, really good information. I have a question. Anybody can grab this. I thought it might be interesting, since everybody up there has a great level of experience, to share with the audience either a person on the creative side or a person maybe from the business side that all of you really look up to, that you think we should look into.
Oh, I got one right away. Looking at a model as far as web series content, somebody that we look at. I mean, that's the thing that I started when we started making this series, is that there's no direct model. You can't open a book and be like, oh, that's how you make successful web series. So what we looked at was what web series out there is successful, and how can we mimic what they're doing. And Freddie Wong comes to mind immediately. He's a massive hit on YouTube, and his audience range is something similar to what I said, and it's people willing to watch. But he's great because he went through a series of posting on YouTube, just silly videos, special effects, building a massive audience, and then using his audience to create an amazing series called Video Game High School. And that's a really great model to look at if anyone hasn't yet. Look into that, look into their numbers. They post them online and say, here's what we do, here's what we go with our budget. So it's a great insight.
I don't know if this applies. I like Shane Smith. I think Vice is amazing. What they've done is incredible, whether you love him or hate him, because I know people go both ways, but you can't deny what they built, and I love that.
That's swag.
Yeah, that's a good word.
Any other heroes, guys?
Two extremes. I think. I mean, it's old hat now, but I think what the guys at Netflix did is amazing. I mean, that was a risky plan once upon a time. And then there's a group called Dead Gentlemen, who I mentioned before, who do their own thing, and they make good shows for their fans, and I admire them a lot.
This doesn't necessarily apply for like a specific person, but I would take a peek at the top 10 YouTube stars, because I guarantee you, have done it right in terms of their business models. Like, if you look at like Phil DeFranco, from when he first came onto the scene, like, he's already kind of, matured in the space a whole bunch. But if you look at the way that he came and used like his YouTube audience, and he was as good as it gets when it comes to being able to sell merchandise through his show. So like, that's a really good example of leveraging the YouTube audience in a business sense. But I think all those top YouTube stars are doing it really, really well. Take a look at what they have to offer on their personal sites and see just kind of the relationship between their YouTube audience, their Twitter audience, their Facebook audience, and really look at them as a case study.
Other questions?
So this is mostly for Daniel and Adam. Hi. So a lot of this discussion is about the business of filmmaking, and I wonder about your art, and do you need to compromise your art or find yourself ever in a situation where you have had to compromise to get it out there?
Not yet, but I'm hoping for that. No, so far, no. I think that's kind of the beauty of going this route, I guess, is that, yeah, I'm making a show for my audience, but it's a show that I want to make and that I'm very passionate about and I love creatively. And so far, I haven't been stifled in any way. That happens in my day job, not on this side project. So I'll let all the stifling happen there if I have to. But no, I don't think so. I think that's something that you have to kind of internally make and have a decision and say, what am I willing to sacrifice creatively? And sometimes you do, but I mean, it's really up to you, I guess. So.
Yeah, if you're making a $5,000, $10,000 web series and you've got a vision, there is no reason to compromise. And if I had to do it over again, I would actually make my shows weirder than they are now, because you get one chance, and the business side of it is not resolved at all, right? No one really knows what's going to happen 2 or 3 years from now, and so just make it the way you want to.
Yeah, even when we sold out, we're still doing it our way. That's why I left TV. Any deal I make, I certainly want to know, hey, what do you want as a brand? What can we do? But we have our game show now, and we have brands aboard, and then we make different aspects of the game show for that brand, but we're still in charge of creative. And I still go, how about this? How about this? Because if I get a brand like I used to when I was a copywriter or when I was in TV who doesn't get the comedy, then they're not the right match for us. We immediately, when we talk to people, we're like, hey, we're snarky comedy. We're older. We're smarter. We're not doing sort of vlogging YouTube humor, which is very different. Again, appealing to 13-year-olds. And we make sure they know that going in. I'm to that point in my career where I like to call the shots. Otherwise, I'd go back and do a bad reality show for Fox.
We have a question back here.
Oh, can I just jump in on that? From the development perspective, I really appreciate people who get it and are willing to work with me. It's so much easier. The process goes so much easier when you're listening as a creative and you understand that there's certain things that I need for this to work. And on the flip side, what I try to bring to the table is I'm coming to you because I like your work. So I'm going to try to get out of your way and let you do what you do. But if we can't have a dialogue, then that gets really complicated too.
Yeah, and I'll say when I was heading up production of Big Frame, we had a bunch of YouTubers, and then YouTube gave us money for this channel that involved these YouTubers that took them off their channel to do different things. They hated it. They didn't want to budge, and it was very difficult to work with them. So I was actually going to dissent on some of the YouTube stuff. There are some really good YouTubers, and there are some really who lucked out, because it's sort of a fraternity. Hey, you recommended me, and thanks for all the views, and they don't know what they're doing so much production-wise, and they don't want to learn. It's sort of interesting. And so if you get that inflexibility, it's very difficult to work with, and it fails. You have to be, as a team, even if you have an executive, if you're smart enough and creative enough, you can come up with ways that you still don't compromise, that still works for everybody.
Question back here.
Hey, hi. Oh, hi. My name's Anne. I'm from Maine, and I'm about to do something really weird. We're actually about to launch our first Kickstarter. We've been doing a lot of Funny or Die content, and it's really fun. But we have this really weird postmodern steampunk sci-fi web series we want to do. And my question is, half of my team thinks that once we make episode 1, the pilot, we should put it in the festival circuit to try to find a distributor. And then half my team thinks that we should try to sell it, and others are like, just put it online. So I'm wondering what you would recommend, because I would like to make money someday, but I also really want to make something awesome, and I want people to see it. So, yeah.
Wow. You gotta have more. I need more. One episode isn't going to do it for me. I need to have more. And you know what? Honestly, one episode isn't going to do it for your audience either. If they want to, I think, and look, I'm not the creative person here, so I'll punt this to the smarter people here. But I think your audience wants to feel like that if you're committing to them and you're creating something, that they're going to come back, and there's going to be more to come back to. So if you just have one episode and you throw it up and you're like, okay, everybody, it's not enough. You have to show commitment to them and say, keep coming back, and I'm going to build this audience. I think if you bring it to me and it's just one episode, like I said, I can't incubate you, I can accelerate you. So you haven't shown me enough trajectory yet with one episode and no audience, so I can't help you there. So I think that's where I would fall at.
Yeah, I mean, what's failed, I can tell you what's failed, is we do shows and the hosts don't want to help that engage. So we did a movie show when we first started. These guys they're members of the LA Film Crew Association. Great reviews. They're like, oh, Twitter, isn't that where you put your food up? I mean, this was 3 years ago. They refused to interact, and it caused a lot of problems at first, because I'm like, your fans want questions from you, they want to answer from you, they want to interact. So, that's what you're referring to. If you do one pilot, it works if you don't put it up. Possibly. If you come to somebody like me and I'm like, wow, that's really good, and Nerdist actually wanted something like that, can I bring that over to him and maybe pitch it and we can partner up on it? That can work. It's hard to do. You got to find the right people who are looking for that specific kind of project. But like David said, yeah, you got to, you got to build that audience. You have to be willing as creators to understand, again, that's 20% of the work. Now the real hard part comes up if you start putting it up, or if you do a Kickstarter. It's getting the word out there about it and showing us that, oh, there's a fan base. Because it's the same thing. I don't want to have to, I'm going to, what, Nerdist doesn't want it, but I'm going to fund it. But, I can't fund trying to get 100,000 Twitter followers. We don't have time for that. That's really hard work that I'm not in the series. You are. I need you to do that for me. So
doesn't a successful Kickstarter, does it count? Does it impress you at all, even if it's only for one episode? It suggests an audience.
But how big? What's the audience? Are you talking 100,000 people donated, or 500 people donated and your mom donated $5,000? Right. It really is. I do look at those numbers and I try to figure out, I'm like, oh, it's interesting. I see one big number and a couple friends. You can kind of start telling those things.
Right. And the other thing about Kickstarter is we are finding that it's not necessarily a good indicator for follow-on engagement, which is sort of interesting. But if you bring me a series that people kickstarted because they want it, and then I distribute it and they don't show up to get it, it's like, well, what happened? There was a disconnect. Something happened there. They wanted it in the way that you present it to them in Kickstarter, but they're not going to go buy it on some other platform. So it's not necessarily a tremendous indicator. So I don't know that it does.
Any other recommendations?
I think, yeah, I think one episode is hard to sell. I think even just, especially if you don't have an audience and you don't have any reactions. I think part of the problem with making an episode and then just trying to get into festivals is that obviously if you're working on your own project, you're going to like it. Doesn't necessarily mean everybody else is. So even just getting that initial reaction and seeing if people are grasping for it and want to go look at it, is a good thing, even if it's just posting that episode and trying to get some sort of reaction from it. I think there's ways that you can post something online and take it off. It'll probably not get posted on some obscure Japanese site forever, but I mean there's ways you can test the waters first before you just make a decision to say no one's going to see this. We're going to go make this a festival run. So It's a good question. There's a lot of festivals that like to have the
So that question is, if it's already online, will someone be interested in buying it?
Every single well, I mean, if you're like, this is, hey, we put 10 episodes up, or we put 2 seasons up, that gets tougher, right? It's already up. Why would I can't take it to anybody now. It's already up. So when I did Kids Court, I went into Nerdist and just pitched a bunch of stuff. And then, literally, it wasn't even the pitch. As I was leaving, they're like, what are you up to? I'm like, oh, we're going to do this court show in my garage with Andy Kindler. Well, I was already standing up and walking out. They're like, wait, sit back down. We want to buy that. If I put it up, they probably wouldn't have. So it's a hard thing to say. But it depends. If you're looking for a second season, our first season did really well. We just need funding for the second season. Sure. If you already have your first season, we want to license it. And they're like, well, it already got a bunch of views. We don't. They would license it, but not for a lot, because you already did the production. It's already up. It's already older. Unless they desperately need some content, I don't know if they would actually want to buy something that's already been up for a while.
So how do you build an
I always go with, you know what, this is what I was a big, I kept pitching big frame, and a lot of people didn't want to do it because they were so used to YouTube. I'm like, I like the movie model, teasers, build up the characters online, have them on Twitter, some little short videos that tease what's going to happen, that, not the whole entire episode. It's marketing, right? Smart, viral marketing groundswells still have a chance to work, I feel.
Yeah, use every part of the buffalo to tell the story. And it's not just marketing. You can actually tell the story, if your story is big enough, to get people interested. So it's not just come see our show, it's this is what's happening on our show, and with all the different platforms, and be as creative as you can be.
And in building that audience, and to that teaser model and all that, if you have 10 friends that do have an audience, have a .com, and with running content about the project, and have these teasers pushed to that .com or pushed to a Facebook page or push to wherever you need to, and start building an audience through pre-existing audiences, and leverage the teaser to really kind of build that audience.
Folks, I'm going to ask a final question to each of you, and that is, and it's come up a lot throughout the conversation, how do you get the meeting? What are the steps to getting the meeting that lets you have the conversation with somebody who can pay you for your show?
I'm lucky. I mean, Nerdist, I wrote for Chris Hardwick on MTV in '95. I mean, it's interesting. It is going to things like this. It's getting to know people, and I'm terrible at that, actually. But that's the end. Is that I don't know how you cold go into a meeting if you're not in the industry and don't go to these events. I don't know how you would get those meetings. Maybe you can talk to that a little more. But to me, it's just a battle of attrition, I call it. When I got to LA years ago, I met some people like, I wrote a script. If it doesn't happen in 2 years, I'm leaving. Well, they're gone. It's working hard, getting to know people, and that's the same way in TV. You get hired in TV, that way. I'm friends with Paul Feig, who sold Freaks and Geeks to start his career because he was just friends with Apatow, and he's like, oh, I wrote a script, and he read it. I mean, because they knew each other from the comedy circuit years before. That's sort of how the industry works, and I don't see the model that different with web. It's who you know, who you connect with. And also know what you're pitching to. If you're going to a Nerdist, know they're looking for niche, geek, nerd content. Don't come to them with something for sports. They don't want it. Know where you're going.
Networking is one of the hardest things to do, and it's such an easy thing to say, and it's one of those things like follow your passion. Nobody wants to believe you, and I find a lot of the people that are just starting out don't know how to network. So I tell everyone, look around you. Who are you sitting next to? Who's your classmate? This is your posse. You have to start building your posse. You have to know that down the road, this person is going to go be an editor's assistant sitting right next to someone, maybe no one of fame, but someone who has the power to say, hey, my friend runs digital at Starz, you should give him a call. And that's what it's about. And then you could say, hey, Dana told me to call you, and maybe he won't take the call, but he'll answer an email. And in this age of everybody has email, everybody's looking at it 24/7, it's an easy call my assistant or sorry, we're not looking right now. But you have to know how to do it. I don't believe in cold calling because I just think it doesn't work. But I think you can find someone who can say, can I use your name, please?
There is a way to do cold calling these days. Twitter. Twitter's a pretty good way of connecting after an event like this. Look me up on Twitter if you guys got something. I always say that. That's a much better way of connecting with me than calling. I don't answer calls. If somebody calls me, it's the worst. Emails I'll look at, but Twitter, somebody connects oh, I really like this, what you did. It starts a conversation, and conversations on Twitter are so easy, and I find that is the best way I've ever networked. I've gotten a lot of gigs off Twitter.
So that means everybody should be flooding Mike's Twitter account with praise for his work on this panel.
I just started my Twitter account. I have 12 followers. It could be an invitation, but it's true. I know. That's the thing. And the thing that's crazy is everybody's looking for the same audience, not necessarily genre or niche, but numbers. So let's say you're doing a television series for a network or a feature film, and you have, Maria Bello. not the most famous woman in the whole wide world, although we love her. What's her social media presence? Everybody's looking for the same thing. So you have to have a social media presence, and you don't have the experience or the reputation yet. And so does someone who you think can get your show made, but the reality is they can't because they don't have the numbers. It's crazy. This is my professional opinion. It's crazy.
I think the networking thing is as important as anything. And when you guys were talking about, like, if someone's poison, just cut the deal. Like, that's why I would say be nice to everyone and follow through with everyone. And you never know if in 3 years you were just on the network side and you're all of a sudden trying to go out on your own and you're calling on your buddy that you never thought you would. 5 years ago he was a nobody and now he's, like running development somewhere or whatnot. So I think that's just a really, really good point. And when you think about classes, I think it really is that. And you look at like YouTube classes is a good example, right? They all kind of, when you say that they're in this boys club or they're in the club, it's like, oh, like that's a very good example, a concrete example of a class rising together. And then I think the other proactive approach that you can take is like build an audience, because when you have that audience, you might just get a call for that meeting. So that's another proactive way to do it. And I think the cold calling and all that is another good thing. But I think that if you really focus on building your audience and building your vision, then you'd be surprised that, once you hit that 50,000 mark, 100,000 mark, and you're passionate about what you're doing, people might just call you for that meeting.
I'm still trying to figure out how to set up those meetings. No, it is tough. It's hard. There's a lot of people looking to do what you're doing. There's a lot of good people as well making great content that want to do what you're doing. But the networking thing is huge, and I think a big thing for me that's always helped is the actual FaceTime. Like, emails, everybody's on email and everyone talks, but I enjoy, it's getting personalities and seeing how you clash in person is always nice. So going to events like this, being here and interacting with people is a really big step and really huge. And you gotta get used to that and used to, don't automatically assume, I guess, that people are going to churn you away because they're looking for your content, and if it's good, then they will, they'll pick it up. So.
Adam's right. People need you. They need your content. Another great thing to do is look for the junior agents. So if you want to go a more traditional route, who just got promoted? Who's just off someone's desk now and they're a junior agent? And that's always in the trades. And then that's an email. That's a cold email like, hey, you need to, because they need to build their network. They need to build their client roster. And if you know someone that just got promoted, give them a little congratulations. And, oh, by the way, I'm going to be in town, and can I come up and say hi? They don't have to know you live down the block.
So definitely don't call. Email. It's just awkward, and it's like, I got stuff going on, I got meetings, and I'm in the middle of something, and pick up the phone. So email and listen. Because I think a lot of people make the mistake of you email and you're like, I have this show, here's this thing, and I write back. I write back the email, I write back. I say, that's great, it's not what we're looking for right now, here's what we're looking for right now, and it's like, the next email I get is like, I got this show, it's great. And it's like, it's sort of similar to what you just sent me. Like, you're not listening, and that's infuriating. And it's just like, okay, I don't have time for people that aren't listening and working with me. And I think also, like, people that listen in here and say, okay, I don't have anything for you right now. Would you mind if I hit you back in a couple months? Sure, go for it. And so then they're like diligently following up in a couple months. Oh, I saw this thing. Oh, I saw you in the trades. I saw this article with your name in it. Oh, I saw you were at this festival. And so now there's like a rapport, and it's like, oh yeah, this person is cool. Send me something that might be interesting. I saw this thing. I thought you might be interested in it. You're not hitting me up for anything now. You're just sort of sending something that's kind of cool. It's like, oh yeah, I really appreciated that. That was a cool article. And so then you develop that rapport, and then it's much easier. Oh, what are you working on now? I saw that you just launched this thing. Hey, I have this other thing. I listened to what you said, and I went back with my team, and I developed this other idea. What do you think about this? Or here's the audience that I've aggregated. I think I can really do something with it. So I think that emailing is the way to go, and come up and talk to me. I'm here. I brought business cards. I'm here for the express purpose of buying content. Like, that is why I am here. So, like, don't be afraid. Come up, say hi, get a card, and then you follow up. It's that easy. And I feel like it's hard, and it's sort of like, and sometimes it's not about like coming up and pitching me right now, because that's like kind of awkward, and there's all these people there, and I sort of have to be nice and be like, oh yeah, that sounds really good, but I sort of like have to talk to all these other people too. So, card, I like to follow up, and I think when you when you're talking to people, remember that they're talking to a ton of people. And so you're representing your brand. You know, what is the one thing that you want me to remember about you when you walk away and I talk to 5 other people, so that when you email me, I will remember, oh yeah, you said something really interesting, or you said something really cool, or you said, this is whatever, I'm the guy who did this, or I'm the woman who did that. I think that's really important.
I was gonna say, stay on my radar.
Yeah.
Like, so if you guys hook up, with me and get my email, and you email me, next week, and I get back to you, we're not looking for something right now, email me a month later. Like, email's not a big deal. Email's great, because I have so many different meetings, so many different people ask me for so many different things. It constantly, especially with online content, changes every single week of what I'm looking for. Every week, it totally changes. Something else comes up. You're always chasing something online, and you might have an idea that might not work great for me in October, but in December it might be awesome, and I might have forgotten about you. There's just that much going on, and again, the budgets are low, so I don't have assistants keeping me abreast of like, don't forget to call that person. Staying on the radar is really important, and that's, again, through a Twitter or through an email. That simple of keeping on the radar every couple of months is a really good idea.
One more thing, and especially because he is busy and he does have 1,000 emails, he might not, and it's not his style, he will answer you, but if he doesn't answer you back, do not take that as a personal affront and besmirch his reputation across the industry, and in a couple of months, try again. It's never personal, it's business, and if someone is not getting back to you, we're just busy. If someone does get back to you and says no, then take the hint. But if someone, don't take it personal. So many times people come up to me months later at some kind of event, I sent you an email, you never got back to me. Who are you? So just remember, it's not personal. Try again in a couple of months.
Folks, thank you for being such a great audience and being engaged. There are more educational opportunities happening in this tent later today. There's a workshop on casting. There is another panel on web TV and the web and big business here at 5 o'clock. If you want to do some more networking this evening at 6:30, there's a party being hosted by Mom Cave TV. The first 100 people in the door get their drinks served in baby bottles. Fun for all. Thank you to this great panel.